Imagine that you didn't buy a lottery ticket and it won. Frustrating, isn't it? Are you ready to spend some money to avoid this unpleasantness? In this video, you'll learn how regrets rule our lives and what to do to never regret anything. If you like our psychology video, please like it and share it with your friends. Regret theory, which emerged in economics and psychology in the 80s, states that people don't buy a lottery ticket to win. They pay to not lose. Or rather, so that they don't feel regret if the ticket they don't buy is the winning one. An experiment was conducted where participants were asked to choose between two boxes, like in a TV game. In this case, if you choose the first box, they will open both, and you will know what was in the second box. And if you open the second box, they will only open it, and the second box will remain closed, and you will never know what you lost. The participants in the experiment always choose the second box so they don't know whether they made a good or bad choice. The old decision theory said that people apparently want to avoid risk. In fact, they don't seem to be avoiding risks, but regrets. And in some situations, that's exactly what provokes them to choose risk. Especially if the risks, as in the case of the lottery, are relatively small, but the regrets to be experienced are very, very hard. Researchers have identified several situations that make anticipatory regrets especially hard. People have more regrets if there was some personal choice in what they did, and fewer if there was no personal choice, meaning that what they did was a default action. For example, if a banker buys the same thing everyone else buys, and they all go bust together, the banker regrets less. But if he alone invests in a failed project while everyone else invested in a successful one, the banker who went broke regrets much more. Because in the first case the action was not an action that carried the imprint of some personality, but in the second case it apparently was. People are very afraid that a small step will have some significant, catastrophic consequences. If we have been on our way all our lives to some catastrophe and find ourselves at the awful end, it is very, very sad. But it does not cause as much annoyance as if the awfulness had come as a consequence of a small, atypical display of weakness or some small mistake on our part. Hence the all-time favorite story of journalists that some professor, for example, left work every morning at the same time. He was a man who lived by the clock. But that day he was delayed by students, and he was only 5 minutes late, but those 5 minutes proved fatal. The minute he drove over the bridge collapsed. If only he had done what he always did. We love stories like that. That said, the story of the professor getting out as usual, but still falling under the bridge, will leave us completely indifferent. Another example of the irrational impact of regrets, are cases where we keep investing in a project, and would never have taken on if we had known it would come to this, as it has. The government, for example, continues to pour million after million into building the stadium. And the stadium is already costing far more than it would have cost to build another stadium. Another contractor needs to be hired, another project needs to be approved, but since 20 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion has already been invested in this one, we have to keep going. We can't just say that the previous 40 billion was a mistake. Or the argument of any country in time of war, we can't let the blood of our boys be spilled for nothing. So we will send more boys to war and shed more blood. States continue to send troops to a war they should never have started. People continue to live with people they would never have gotten together with if they had known where it was going. But we didn't agonize all these years for nothing, only to now divorce after 20 years together. Yesterday's students go to work in a field they hate because they didn't get their college degree for nothing. Regrets make us tie ourselves more and more to the choices we once made. If I got an education in a specialty, I don't want to regret that it was all for nothing, and I go to work in that specialty. If I started working in that specialty, I do not want to feel that it was also in vain, and I will continue to work in that specialty, not to cross out the years devoted to it. So what can we do to stop regrets from ruling our lives? Researchers suggest the use of so-called biographical condoms. Like conventional contraceptives, they allow us not to get too deeply involved later in our possible actions, and leave the possibility, if necessary, to return to their comfortable state. It is a matter, for example, of avoiding investing too deeply, which it would be a shame to lose. One can spend 4 years at university, but not invest so much time and energy in higher education that it is miserable to drop it and start over. Smart people have long taught each of us to look at each moment of our lives as a goal, not as a means. In this way, they spare us future remorse for a life lived in vain. It helps us avoid the illusion that the events of our lives must line up in some logical and understandable sequence. So there is no point in regretting the past or the possible consequences. What do you think of this approach? How do you yourself deal with regrets? Write in the comments. And be sure to support us on Patreon. It's the best way to support us. The link is in the description.